it is necessary to purge the establishment.
What she's suggesting that churches do, a focus on...
That's not necessarily a good thing to start with.
They're stating it wasn't around when we needed the greatest generation of the 30s or 40s or...
It happened before the election because there are too many Republicans that are afraid that their wrongdoings are going to...
It's unacceptable, and I'm not going to sit here, stay silent, and not call it out. I'm calling out the
With
lies.
rules for Thanksgiving. Who the hell is he to tell us what we're supposed to do?
Do they think that we are so stupid that we will not notice and find out?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
CPAC, Friday, day one, the Conservative National Convention, and I am utterly stoked to be here. I am Savannah Lynn of The Savvy Truth, and we are coming to you live from Orlando, Florida, here at the epitome of patriots, of conservatives, of Republicans, and of everything that still is America. We are so stoked to be here right now with our Right American Media squad and family, and we are excited to hear some amazing speakers today like Ted Cruz, Governor DeSantis, and so many others. We're utterly stoked to be here, and you're going to get all of your live streams, all of your interviews, and all of your patriotic American content here at CPAC 2021. Media, do you have a quick second?
Sure.
So this is Right American Media. I'm Savannah from The Savvy Truth. Can you just tell me why you're here, what you're hoping to get out of this event?
Oh, I'm just here to support our freedoms and stand against socialism. I ran for Congress in the last election. I'm just still passionate about all the issues. Also to see President Trump, I'm excited, but all the other speakers as well.
And what state are you from? Where did you run from?
Michigan, the 11th district. So that was in the last election.
And I'm guessing it was stolen from you, wasn't it?
Well, I did win the election day vote, so that's all I'm going to say. I didn't win the absentee ballot vote, but I'm considering another run, so we'll see.
All right, well, we wish you the best of luck. Thank you for being here, and I love your patriotic suit. That's awesome.
Thank you so much.
Walking around. Hi, Right American Media. Do you have a quick second to do an interview?
Sure.
So we're Right American Media. I'm Savannah from The Savvy Truth. So can you just tell me what you plan to get out of CPAC, why you're here?
I came to listen to a wide range of views, more interested in stuff regarding China and immigration, but I got to see a lot of representatives from my own state of Pennsylvania, and I'm just more excited to see Trump today and see what he has to say about the upcoming 4 years.
So besides Donald Trump, were there any speakers that particularly stuck out to you or that you liked?
I'm a big fan of Josh Hawley. Ron DeSantis had a good opening to the whole event, and Tom Cotton had a great speech as well.
And honestly, how are you liking Florida weather compared to Pennsylvania? Because I hear y'all are pretty cold up there.
We've had rain and snow for the past few weeks, so I'm definitely enjoying this. But at the same time, I like my seasons. Grew up there, so I can handle the snow.
All right, well, thank you so much.
Yeah,
I hope you have a great day.
You too.
And we're back, and here I have Kevin Sorbo, a.k.a. Hercules, a.k.a. the creator of all the amazing God's Not Dead films. So, can you just tell everyone out there who you are?
Quickly, I can't say that I'm the creator of God's Not Dead films. I did one God's Not Dead, the really good one, the first one. But I've done a lot of faith-based movies since then. I tell people to watch What If, Let There Be Light is streaming on Amazon right now. Soul Surfer, I play the guy who saves Bethany Hamlin's life in the water, so please check that one out. Staying busy with a lot of different stuff right now, which is very good. I'm here promoting a documentary called Climate Hustle 2. I think it's very important. Go to climatehustle2.com, get the other side of the issue of the global warming scare, because I call global warming weather, guys. Really take a look at it and get a look at the other side instead of getting brainwashed on one side of it.
All right. right, and I am a strong Christian. Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior, and I would just love for everyone out there to know, what was your moment of coming to Christ? What was that moment for Kevin Sorbo when he realized the creator of the universe has an amazing purpose for his life?
Well, you know what? I've been a Christian my whole life. My parents were very strong Lutherans. We'd go to church every Sunday, of course. I joined the youth group that we got together every Wednesday at our church. It's always been in my life, but there was one moment that was certainly crystal clear, because we all have questions. We all kind of wonder, okay, where's God? Who is God? Is there a God? So when I was 13 years old, we went to see the Reverend Billy Graham speak at the St. Paul Fairgrounds. There were about 250,000 people there. It was a hot August night. The full moon was out, and I was moved for whatever reason when he said, we have volunteers up here if you want to just talk, pray, whatever you want to do, come on up. You want to commit to God, please come up here, commit your life to Christ. I decided to go up there, and I'm sitting on the grass talking to this guy. He's probably 30 years old. I was all of 13. We weren't praying or anything. We were just talking. All of a sudden, a hand went on my head. I turned around. It was the Reverend Billy Graham. And I'm looking at him, and his head was perfectly covering the moon. So just this glow coming out. I get goosebumps telling the story every single time. It was so cool. And he prayed for me and talked to me, and I told that story, and somebody at the Chicken Soup for the Soul, if you know those guys' books, they do a lot of books, 101 stories, saw that story and said, would you write a chapter? The Reverend Billy Graham loved this story. So I told this story, wrote a chapter. I'm in that book. It's the only hardcover book they have ever done for Chicken Soup for the Soul. The book came out. I get a call from his publicity team saying he was well into his 90s, and he said he would love it if you would go out and do the publicity on the book, because by then Hercules had been out, Andromeda had been out, my faith-based movies were coming out, and I was honored to be the guy that would go on television and radio to promote that book, because he asked me to do it, and I've been very good friends with his son, Franklin Graham, over the years as well, and it's been an amazing ride for me.
So you were honestly thrust right in front of the camera for spreading God's love. So was acting just did it make a sense to go to that step and then going straight into the Christian movie step? Like, how did that become your little gimmick that you've been doing?
Well, what happened in 2010, I've been doing a lot of my second series, Andromeda, finished in 2005, and I was doing a lot of movies. Westerns, there were family movies, Christmas movies in there. Dallas Jenkins came in. Dallas Jenkins is now behind The Chosen, which is out there right now. And he's the son of Jerry Jenkins, who was part of the Left Behind books. And he said, I got this wonderful script. I read it. It was the What If movie. And I said, who's playing Pastor Ben? And he said, I don't know. He named a couple names. I said, no, I'm playing. He goes, dude, I can't afford you. I said, this movie is so low budget. And I said, I don't care. You'll have to pay me at least SAG minimum, Screen Actors Guild. They have a minimum that they have to pay actors. I said, pay me the absolute minimum. I want to do this movie. And that really opened the door for me to want to do movies that didn't have to be Christian movies, right? I just want to do movies that were either faith-based or family-friendly, just movies that would have a good message, because there's so much, pardon my French, crap out there right now, that violence and hate and anger and sex. And I'm not a prude in any way, but I said, you know what? Hollywood has the right to make the movies they want to make. People have the right to go to the movies that they want to go see. But I want to do movies that have a positive message. And I get stopped all the time through hotel lobbies, airports, by people that say, hey, loved you on Hercules, but the reality is I love the family movies you're doing. And I've really been doing a lot of those lately. I got 3 new ones coming out. Please go to Amazon right now. I actually have the #1 Christian documentary out there right now called Before the Wrath, beforethewrath.com. It is on the Book of Revelation. It's an amazing educational look at the Book of Revelation. Trust me, read the Bible. It'll scare the hell out of you.
Right, American Media, do you all have a quick second to do an interview?
Sure, I can do it.
All right, well, CPAC Day 3, is there anything that stood out to you this week? What are you here for? What are you doing?
Oh, we're here to see President Trump, of course. We came from Tampa. We've been huge fans of President Trump since the beginning, so we're very excited to hopefully see him.
All right, do y'all have anything to add on to that?
Oh, we're here to see the other speakers and everybody who's walking by. It's pretty cool. Just ran into Mike Lindell.
Yep, we got our picture with him. Jim Jordan, Matt Schlapp, a bunch of people. It's been an amazing morning.
So besides Donald Trump, or who we're hoping to see later, were there any speakers that stuck out to you for any messages in particular?
I was hoping to see Kevin McCarthy. I think he's going to be the next Speaker of the House. I didn't get to see him yet. He might be here today.
So you guys said you're from Tampa, and would it be too inappropriate to ask how old you guys are? Because y'all look like you're in high school.
Oh, no, I'm 24. Yep, grad school.
19.
a mask, 22 years old.
I'm also not saying.
Well, thank y'all for coming down. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Hi, Right American Media. Do y'all have a quick second to do an interview? Sure. All right. CPAC Day 3. Have you guys been to the 2 other days so far?
Yes.
Were there any speakers that stuck out to you or that you really enjoyed seeing?
Ted Cruz for sure. Yeah, Ted Cruz. He was my favorite.
Ted Cruz, fan favorite of the bunch. Now, is there anyone in particular who you're looking forward to see today?
Donald Trump. President Trump, yes.
And for 2024 election, do you think he's going to run? What are your opinions on that?
I'm not sure. I'm hoping that maybe Ron DeSantis or Ted Cruz will run as well, but you never know. He's got a lot of surprises.
Yeah, I think he'll definitely announce something that he's going to be doing in 2024, but I'm not sure. I also hope DeSantis will run.
So you think DeSantis will run as his VP, or do you think he'll run on his own separate ballot?
I think on a separate ballot, if anything.
Agreed, a separate ballot.
Now, if he ran on his own ballot, is there anyone in particular y'all would like to see as his VP?
Ooh, I don't know. Matt Gaetz might be a good pair. 2 Florida men.
Florida boys.
So I'm guessing y'all are from Florida. You're Florida resident?
I'm from Florida, yes.
I'm from Virginia.
Ooh, Virginia. Love it there. All right, well, thank y'all for this interview. It's been great.
Yes, thank you.
And over behind me, we have the epic times where Jim Jordan is presently being interviewed. Now, I don't know if y'all can hear it from here because I can't, but I wish we could hear what they were talking about. Honestly, you're just going to have to tune into that later to see. You keep disappearing every day. No, I was talking to Caitlin. You're the one who ran out. Yes, it is. All right, well, I'll get an interview with Joel Patrick. Everyone, Joel Patrick, the black redneck.
How are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing great.
CPAC, you've been here all 3 days. You've been doing interviews, but you've been running around. Where have you been?
I have been, actually we were doing a documentary. We shot a documentary with Vice. And then I've been super tired. And so there's that.
Well, I mean, 3 days of straight conservative speakers. That's pretty freaking awesome. So have you seen anyone or have you been running around doing interviews?
I saw Ben Carson yesterday. That was awesome. And we took a picture. And then I've seen Corey Lewandowski and Don Jr. and Jim Jordan, and yeah, I think that's about it.
All right, but you're going to go see Donald Trump later, right?
Yeah, I think Donald Trump's coming at 3 today, so that should be super exciting.
Yeah. All right, and the question of the day, 2024, Donald Trump ticket, who's the VP? Do you even think it's going to happen?
I actually don't think Donald Trump should run in 2024. I think he should focus on helping to build either the new party or the Republican Party back up. And I think he should choose somebody younger like Ron DeSantis who we can get like 8 solid years in with. Because even if Trump runs again, he can only run for 4 years. We need a much longer term plan.
I mean, that's so true. But would you support maybe Owens' Trump ticket between those two lovely ladies? Yes.
If Candace Owens and Trump are on the same ticket, I mean, I would vote for Trump in 2024.
Oh, I meant the Ivanka Trump. The Ivanka Trump. Make it an only ladies ticket. What do you think of that?
I would support that. A very, very conservative duo. I would 100% support that.
It'd be freaking awesome. Well, thank you so much for the interview. It's good to see you.
Good to see you too.
And I'm here with Jed Dunning, actor, comedian, author, just all around great guy. So you're here at CPAC. What are you doing? What are you here for? Who are you excited to see today?
Well, listen, I've seen you up and down Radio Row. You've got the most American look here, so I came to find you guys. So congratulations, you're doing a great job here at Tip of the Spear. Yeah, I came here because our book, 13 1/2 Reasons Why Not to Be a Liberal and How to Enlighten Others. I plan to be the new Howard Zinn of America. I have this fantasy that, we wrote this to get to the hearts and minds of the facts of all the major points in conservatism, because really there's so much fake news, fake facts, fake science, there's a shifting of our vocabulary, a lack of gratitude, the hijacking of our history, racial division, and the use of immigrants and minorities for political gain. It's ugly. It's really, big tech is canceling on top of that. A lot of things are really going down where we're starting to hijack the mentality of America. So I just came to be here. I call this the great dust off after losing. We're just like, dust it off, man. We're conservatives. Let's pick up the boots, thank you, and just get moving. And the energy here has been fantastic. People have been really faith, family, God, gun rights, individual liberty. And you've just got to connect and march ahead. And hopefully our judiciary isn't so compromised we can't take control again.
All right, and so can you just give us a quick summary overview of each chapter that you cover in your book so people just get a little bit of taste of what they're looking forward to?
Ooh, each chapter is a lot of work, but I'll give you a smatterings of a few of my favorites if you want to look up our book. It's a conservative compendium for years to come. It's not just for this cycle. You are not a bigot. Justice does not need an adjective. Life is not a safe space. American exceptionalism is not a hate crime. Jews and Christians don't blow up airlines. Every nation secures its borders. Violent anarchic mobs are bad. How about this one? Here's my favorite. Big government fails at everything. Life is not fair and people are inherently unequal. Deal with it. I mean, the conservative message in sound bites is very palatable and very defendable. And it's also very positive. So that's basically what our book is about. So that's what we're doing. I also do a comedy show. And the comedy show is at Bullet Point Nation with Michael Loftus of Fox. Because, the other thing is you have to laugh.
I'm here with, I'm going to pronounce your name correctly, Reimers. Yeah. From Conservative Girly. I knew I was going to get it wrong, but so nice to meet you. And we're just going to come here talking about conservative censorship, what really goes on, and quite frankly, all the hate that conservative women get for just having an opinion. So what can you tell me a little bit about that?
Okay, so my Instagram page is currently shadow banned, and I haven't been able to post in a long time. My TikTok accounts have been banned permanently. I tried to reach out, but I can't. I received multiple DMs of threats, doxing, you name it, I got it. So yeah, it's honestly tough.
Let's just throw it all out there for everyone to know. Conservative women here. You've been doxxed. I've been doxxed. It's fun. Yeah, I'm guessing you get rape threats, death threats. I personally get threats about how people are going to kill my horse, slit her throat, send her to a dog meat farm. I don't know if you have anything like that, but
I do. I have a pet bunny. It's in my profile picture, and basically I'm just holding it up. And here I receive multiple DMs. I hope your bunny dies. I mean, what did my bunny do to you?
Honestly, it's either along the lines of when it comes to conservatives' animals, I feel so bad for your animal that they live with such an evil person, or it's along the lines of, I hope your animal gets murdered in a brutal, bloody car fire or something crazy like that.
Yeah, exactly. And they're extremely hypocritical. For example, they're all about body positivity, but then they just slide into DMs and just start body shaming you and start saying oh, kill yourself, all that stuff.
Honestly, I feel that I did a video a few months ago about things that I thought us as women could come together and just fix. And some of it was along the lines of, hey, maybe women shouldn't run around with lingerie on and then demand respect from the guys. Maybe we should respect ourselves. Maybe we should all conceal carry. So if someone does try to sexually assault us, or dare I say for us in particular, rape and murder us, we can go the pew-pew back and defend ourselves like the Second Amendment gives us privileges to do. And that video got so much flack and so much body shaming on that. I had my shoulders out in the video, how dare I? And people got on to me for that.
Oh no, I mean it's not like you're walking around there's not not really exactly asking for it. It's just more of it's more of showing off. Me personally, I'm a traditionalist. I dress traditional. I believe that stuff should be shown to your husband, or in the bedroom where it's not public, because I'm pretty sure most people do not want to see that, and it honestly makes a person less attractive, because being modest, being traditional is very good, I would have to say. It's really good for relationships and everything. So,
well, if you honestly just want to go down the whole route of Christianity and what our religion says about it, dress modestly and have respect for yourselves, don't have sex before marriage, date to find the person that you're supposed to spend the rest of your life with, and things like that. They get so much hate because people will try to take the Bible out of context and say, well, this Bible verse says you shouldn't adorn yourself with jewelry or with rings or with earrings, and you shouldn't curl your hair or dress nicely. And I'm like, no, these verses are talking about how you're not supposed to use that as portraying who you are. You're not supposed to use that to draw your attention. What should draw attention from guys is your heart, who you are, and that's what in the Bible they look for.
Exactly, your personality, what you have in common. what you like about the person, just how it just, you know, clicks, because sometimes you'll just find like your soulmate and just like know, oh, this person's the one, they have the same religion as me, they love God. But of course you also have to be careful, because some people do try to fake it and try to do that. But as for the people who have Jesus Christ in their heart, it's just so it's really good. It's really good.
I'm here today with Susan Young, modeling this amazing Make America Great Again dress. Honestly, I'm getting some Joy Vila, Ricky Rebel vibes. Can you just tell me a little bit about what you're wearing tonight?
I'm wearing MAGA, Make America Great Again. And the point is really to keep America first. We want this country to keep what Trump put in place, the agenda, to continue. And the person who made this dress, Andre Soriano, he is an immigrant who came into this country and became legal as a resident of the United States. So I'm very proud and support the American First agenda to keep and make America great.
Wow, he must have an amazing story, coming here as an immigrant and then creating all these beautiful dresses for some very cool red carpet people. I am modeling actually myself my Trump 2020 shirt, rodeo shirt, so I love rodeo shirt. I love all the conservative bling. I love it, absolutely love it. So, Trump 2024, will it happen? Who's going to be his VP? Do you think maybe DeSantis? No? Like who?
You know what? I like surprises, so let's keep it up in the air.
And do you think, I've heard a little bit of a rumor, just a little bit of buzz in the air, that he might be announcing his candidacy today. What do you think?
I think that would be great.
I think it'd be awesome, honestly.
Make America great again.
Yes. Make America Great Again, Trump 2024. And God's Not Dead won. That was the most impactful scene for me personally, honestly, because that's when your character came to Christ. That's when you accepted Jesus. And backstory on his character at the beginning of his college classes had all of his students write on a piece of paper that God is dead. And one of the students challenged you, and you guys went into this whole session of debates, and that movie, particularly for my youth group, was so impactful because it answered so many of the questions that the kids my age had, because as a Christian I still have tons and tons of questions, but that movie really answered them and gave clarity where I had doubts.
If you, in that movie, I torment a college student that won't write God is dead on a piece of paper, so I challenged him to a series of debates. And one of the debates, he quotes John Lennox. You may not know who John Lennox is. John Lennox is one of the greatest apologists of our time. Okay, he's a retired math professor from Oxford University. So because of that line, when he quotes John Lennox, they came to me and we did a documentary on John Lennox's life. It's called Against the Tide, which is out right now. Go to againstthetide.movie, okay? Not .com, not .net, but againstthetide.movie. We spent 3 weeks in Oxford, England, 2 weeks in Israel, and the subtitle is Proving God in a World of Science. I call this apologetics for dummies like me, okay? When you watch this movie, please take down notes, take bullet points to give you a good fighting points to pass on to atheists that attack you for you and your faith. It's amazing. Againstthetide.movie. Please check it out.
So obviously you're a crazy strong Christian. You're the epitome of Christianity when it comes to awesome movies. But you're also a conservative. You're also pretty pro-Trump. So were you always a conservative, or was that something that came with your faith over time?
You know what? The first time I could vote in my life was 1980, so I'm showing you how old I am now. I voted for Ronald Reagan. Now, I grew up in Minnesota. My parents were Hubert Humphrey, Walter Mondale Democrats, which your mom would know who they are. And when I voted for Reagan, my parents were beside themselves. They couldn't believe I voted for a Republican. And I said, I got a feeling Jimmy Carter, who was president at the time, is going to be probably the worst president we've ever had. And I was pretty much right until recently. So we're in crazy times right now. But if you go back and look at Walter Mondale, Hubert Humphrey, you go back to JFK in 1960, okay? He was a very popular Democrat president. You listen to that 1960 inauguration speech. Please check it out. That is not one Democrat talking that way today, because one of his famous words for JFK is, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. There's not one Democrat that talks that way today. Not one. They all want to take care of your life from cradle to grave. They want big government. They want to control our lives, and they want to control us through fear. Fear is an amazing weapon. They're using it through climate change, and they're using it through COVID right now. So you need to really get educated on what's going on and what the government and what the public school systems are doing to us right now.
So you're obviously a straight white male, you're Christian conservative, so you're probably the epitome of everything that the Democrats hate. So what is your opinion on cancel culture today, getting rid of Jesus Christ out of government, out of schools, out of our education systems, and replacing it with this agenda of you are required to hate your country, you're required to hate your fellow man because of skin color, and that, hey, character doesn't matter because we only focus on what we can see on the outside. So what is your opinion on all that?
We got a battle in front of us. They took the Bible out of schools back in 1964, and we see what's happening with those things going on right now. I have a movie coming out called One Nation Under God. It's a high school drama dealing with that phrase going back into our Pledge of Allegiance. So I hope you guys watch that when that comes out later this summer as well. It's unbelievable what we're doing, the brainwashing what we're doing in our public schools, because when your mom and I were in public schools together, trust me, I didn't have any teacher tell me how to vote and what to believe in God or not believe in God. They taught math, they taught biology, they taught history, things they were hired to do. It has changed so much right now, and the anger and the violence and the hatred coming from the left has created such a divide in America right now that we need to find a way to be as passionate as them, but build a bridge in a peaceful way instead of a negative way, okay? We need to work with them in a positive way. We cannot get to the level of hatred that they have because that makes us no better than they are. We need to work with them and have civil conversations to make this country come back to being great, because this country is built on individuals, not built on big government. Our forefathers are turning over in their graves right now. They did not, Congress was supposed to be housewives and doctors and teachers. They're all lawyers now. They're all lawyers, and they want to rewrite history and they want to rewrite the Constitution. The Constitution was not written for the times it was written. It was written to withstand the test of time.
You know, that is so true what you said. People in our government should be everyday people who live all sorts of different lives in America, but now you just see them coming out of law school going straight into government, and I think that that's so true. We should have more diversity in our government, not just with color, but with what they do.
Term limits. We need to fight for term limits. No more 40-year careers for these people, because it's all about them and their power and just becoming rich doing the things that are coming off their 40-year careers. Enough of that. They're supposed to serve their constituents. They're supposed to serve the people that they represent, but they don't. They only serve themselves.
So do you think you can explain a little bit how conservatism lines up with the Bible better, if not completely, than the Democrat side of their agenda?
Well, the Constitution and our laws really come from the Bible. The whole idea behind it was that our forefathers, politics and religion go together. I mean, we're a Judeo-Christian country. It was founded that way. We fought for it that way in the Revolutionary War. The whole idea behind the Constitution and our laws, as I said, came from the Bible. Thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. These are things that are out there, but people now want to erase them, pretend that stuff never existed. So you and I, and especially your age group, needs to wake up and start fighting back to what's going on out there.
All right, and last question. What's advice that you give to my age group so we can fight back in the face of adversity that would just link to silence us more?
Don't be afraid. Apathy is the biggest killer of America right now at all ages, and people on the right have been cowed into silence. We need to keep fighting back. We need to get past this thing that, oh, well, it's nothing we can do. They own the media. They own everything. No, we don't. Look, it cost my career in mainstream Hollywood. That's fine. I don't hate Hollywood. I don't harbor that kind of hate to Hollywood. They may harbor it to me because I'm not in line with them. But I'm grateful that through independent movies, I'm still able to spread a positive message and a good message. So all you youngsters out there, do not be afraid to have your voice heard. Do not be afraid. That people are always going to attack you. I get attacked every single day. But they don't attack me in person. They attack me in the cowardice of their hotel or their apartment or their home at 3 o'clock in the morning. I would love to have them come meet me face to face, not for a fight. Let's have a real civil conversation about why you believe the way you do and why I believe the way I do. Stop it with your labels. You can throw Nazi, you can throw homophobe, you can throw anti-Semite, you can throw all these labels at me, but you never have any truth to back those statements up. It's all about just throwing a label and then you walk away. Once the truth comes your way, they will walk away. Just hit them with truth, hit them with light. The darkness hates the light.
Although I don't think picking a fight with you would end very well, considering that we have Hercules here with us. But where can everyone go to follow you, support you on your journey?
Please go to SorboFamilyFilmStudios.com, SorboFamilyFilmStudios.com, or to KevinSorbo.net. But at SorboFamilyFilmStudios.com, you can leave your information. We'll keep you up to date. We've got a funding page on there. We've got a donor page on there. Please support the work that we do. And actually, I'm going to announce right here. I haven't announced it to anybody yet, but I'm starting my own YouTube page. I'm going to do doing a daily blog for about 10-15 minutes a day starting in about 2 weeks. So please look for that page coming up soon at YouTube.
All right, we feel very lucky to have that little special tidbit of information. So let's go back to Justin in the studio, and thank you so much for being on.
Thank you. You're awesome.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was CPAC 2021, Right American Media, and This Savvy Truth Style. Now, that was an exhausting week, and I got absolutely no sleep, but I would not change a single second of it. It was a weekend where literally all of my dreams came true, and I got to meet people I never thought I would ever meet, and I got recognized and had my picture taken more times than I ever thought possible. So that was awesome. Now, if you'll excuse us alongside everyone else at CPAC, I think we're going to spend this next week winding down and maybe getting our sleep schedule back in order. Remember, know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. Good night from Texas.
Hey, I'm K-Soak from K-Soak Uncensored. My show airs every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern on RAM Channel 1. My platform is We the People, and I represent a stage for all 50 states. And the only thing that my guests have in common is that they are raging patriots and they love this country and they have a great message to share. Please come check us out and join the K-Soak Uncensored family.
The Second Amendment is a priority at the Loaded Mic. If we don't defend the right to keep and bear arms, there are people who are happy to violate it. The strategies and tactics of the anti-gun crowd and politicians are sinister, and we need to understand those tactics. I wrote the Good Gun, Bad Guy book series as the rule book to their evil game, so we can understand their strategies and motives to defeat them. Understand the mindset of the anti-gunner in Book 1. Learn the media strategies behind the gun grab in Book 2, and understand the politics behind their mission in Book 3. Go to goodgunbadguy.com.
All right. Good evening, folks. Welcome to another edition of the Council of Colonels. Hey, before we bring the guys in, nice job, Juan and Savvy and Keith and the entire team from Right American Media. Good job, Juan, there. Big thumbs up to you. You guys did a great job. Looks like CPAC 2021 for Right American Media was a huge success. Great job there, Savvy, getting a break tonight. Good job, Juan and the production team from the Savvy Truth putting together that little show tonight. So Keith and Juan was there, and Savvy and the entire gang. So hope you guys caught that. Let's bring Carl and Lee in real quick. We got a lot of videos tonight, a lot of things to cover. We'll cover a little bit about CPAC. We got there's just a lot going on right now, and I'm lucky to be here tonight. I had a splitting migraine till about 10 minutes ago. Carl and Lee, you guys are about to be a flight of 2-1 was about to break up the flight, but I'm okay now. Hey, before we got a couple of videos. I know Juan's going to give me a thumbs up here in a few minutes. We got a couple of videos. I'm not sure how many, Juan. Tell me with your fingers, Juan, how many videos? 3. But hey, before we get to it, real quick, just kind of a lightning round, Lee and then Carl. 2024, if you had to pick the ticket today, who you think it'll be and who you want it to be. So Lee, I can see Lee's thinking. We're going to go to Carl first. Who you think it will be, and then who you want it to be. Carl, go first. I think you're set up for that. Then we'll come back to Lee. Carl, go. Gosh, that's a tough one. I feel like Nikki Haley's going to want to be in there, although I'm a little confused on what was going on this week. I think the jury's still out on Trump. That's a tough one. That is a. Thanks for the warning shot on that one. Okay, so Lee, what do you think?
Well, I think Donald Trump's going to be the head of the ticket, and I'm thinking I'm between Kristi Noem and Ron DeSantis. I like both. I think DeSantis would secure Florida for sure. I think Trump probably has Florida anyway, but South Dakota is a solid red state, so I don't think either one of them is going to bring the state along. But either one of them would be great choices. And Nikki Haley, she's already shot herself in the head. I don't think she has a prayer of being on the ticket anyway.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Lee. There's a rhino if you ever saw one. Not a huge fan. I will tell you, we've got Florida. I think the jury's still out on Trump running. I like the comment that somebody made. I think actually it was just somebody Savvy was interviewing in that last segment. We might need a little youth in there. Trump can certainly be the kingmaker, but guys, we're gonna need an Alan West. We're gonna need a Tim Scott. We are gonna need some diversity on that ticket if we're gonna make that work. I mean, there are some great folks out there I'd love to see on the top and the bottom of that ticket.
Hey Chris, let me jump in real quick just to kind of give myself a little bit of a break on that question. I'm all for Trump if he's the guy, but nothing unifies the Democratic Party more than their hatred of Trump, and that is just the one thing that worries me the most. Nothing unifies a Democrat more than.
So, I think Carl brings up a great point, Lee. There's just nothing more unifying to the Democrats than hating Donald Trump. So again, you got a Tim Scott in there. There's lots of folks, you mentioned, a great governor out west, up this in the Northwest up there, Kristi Noem. So there's some possibilities there. So it'll be interesting. I think Trump and DeSantis won the straw poll. Not a surprise that Trump won, and not a surprise that DeSantis. He was playing on the home field, right? He had the home court advantage there. It came in a distant second, but there was literally nobody. I think our great governor here in Texas came in a distant last with actually 0 votes. But speaking of the governor of the great Republic of Texas here on getting close to the end of the 13 days of the Alamo, Texas Independence Day, Texas Constitution Day, big month of March here for Texans. It looks like some of these states, Lee, are going to end the mask mandate. It looks like here in Texas, the governor's going to follow DeSantis's lead, and we might be out of the woods here on masks. What's the story up there in the Northeast?
Well, in New Hampshire, masks are still mandatory in a lot of different places. Indoors, I believe they're still mandatory. There's no restrictions that have been changed that I'm aware of. So, wear a mask if you're going to be indoors. Other than that, I don't pay a whole lot of attention to those rules. Most private organizations or private places, if you're going to a grocery store, they require masks to go in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I haven't heard anything specific, any changes up here.
Well, we're changing here in Texas. We know, Carl. We know what you're doing down there in the People's Republic of Virginia.
Hey, we still got a curfew from 12 p.m. to 5 a.m., an unenforced curfew, but it ends this weekend, and they can sell beer starting up till midnight starting Friday. So we're kind of getting back to normal.
So we got a big show. Juan, we're going to do that first video in a second. Guys, we're going to talk a little bit about these videos. We're going to talk about Cuomo. We're going to talk about 2024. We might even talk about, I wrote this down, we're going to talk about Dr. Seuss. That should be pretty good for the Air Force guys. We should be able to bring that down to your guys' level. We're going to talk about Dr. Seuss today. We're going to talk about Kayleigh. Looks like Kayleigh McEnany's got a new gig over at Fox News. So we're going to talk a little bit about term limits maybe. But Juan, you ready with that first one? All right, buddy, on the target. Let's go ahead and roll in hot with that first video.
Disrespect for women that this administration chronically exemplifies. After the Me Too movement, they did absolutely nothing when it came to sexual harassment. They have always diminished the charges of women. Always, consistently. And they're doing it again. To cheapen or ridicule the pain a woman suffers from a sexual attack is disgusting. Sexist and disgusting. To second guess how a woman should have acted after a sexual attack.
All right, so I'm going to give Juan a little homework in the box right there. Juan, if you can come up with the Senator Hirano video, the Women Must Be Believed soundbite, if you can find that. I just gave you a tough one. I think that would dovetail nicely. So real quick, Lee, it seems like I remember about a year and a half, I guess it's been 2 years now, when we had a Supreme Court nominee to the Supreme Court going through his confirmation process. I remember Justice Kaye. Boy, didn't all women have to be believed, Lee? I thought that's where we were going with this Me Too deal.
Well, I think so. That was just a shame that Kavanaugh got treated that way, and the key witness, the lady who was bringing the charges, couldn't remember anything about any of it. As we get to talk about Cuomo, I mean, if a Democrat is accusing you of something, rest assured that they're the ones that are doing it if they don't have any proof. And Cuomo is a perfect example where, the Russian dossier paid for by the Clinton campaign, the Steele dossier paid for by the Clinton campaign, accusing Trump of Russia collusion when we all know it was the Clinton camp, with the uranium one where they were getting paid by the Russians. So if Democrats are accusing you of doing it, rest assured that they are doing it, and chances are the people they're accusing on the Republican side aren't. So the Democrats are the height of hypocrisy in almost every case.
Yeah, and obviously here at the Council of Colonels, I mean, this is a very difficult subject. I mean, you definitely have to take these issues with a grain of salt. But on the political side, Carl, is he going to survive? Now I don't know if you guys saw, we have the third accuser coming out today. We have Art. As we say in politics, I don't know if Juan, you probably might feel we got Juan some homework. You can find the picture too of Cuomo today that just came out with a third accuser, again, innocent until proven guilty. Does he survive this, Carl?
That's a tough one, but I will tell you, if he has to go out, and apparently he has recently, in the last 24 hours, hired a pretty high-profile New York attorney, clearly he feels he's at risk. So we got that too. And let's go back to the Me Too movement. And he used the word diminished. I think the absence of conversation from people like our vice president, from, just some of the mainstream media folks in Hollywood, they're diminishing the Me Too movement by being absent, because in all other cases, they were very quick to come in and support, the victim against the alleged, abuser. So in this case, I think, he must think he's at risk. And I think the lack of conversation with where we normally see conversation diminishes the whole movement, which, that movement was about protecting and making sure people were, mistreated, were protected. And I think we're taking a step backwards here. And I think that's something that we need to think about as well.
Yeah, that's the interesting part, Lee. So we're actually taking a step backwards soon. I don't want to get into this part of it tonight, but you could say the same thing about race relations and the BLM movement. That we'll save that for a different show and different time. But Carl's exactly right, Lee. I think we've taken a step backwards, right, Lee? I remember, and you brought up, Coach K or Judge K's that issue. We'll stick with the current topic, but I remember hearing, and Juan's feverishly looking for Senator Rano's soundbite. You remember what the vice president said about it. You remember what Kristen Gillibrand said. I am surprised, though, Lee. It looks like Hillary Clinton's come out today. I think this might be the first time you will agree with AOC and Hillary Clinton. But I'll ask you the same question that I asked Carl. Does Cuomo survive?
Cuomo's not going to survive because the left-wing mob is going after him now. And if you're a left-wing guy and the left-wing mob's coming after you, you're done. And I'll bring up, a couple other names: Juanita Broderick, Tara Reid. If you're familiar with either one of those, I think most people probably are. Joe Biden and Bill Clinton, respectively. Clinton has a few more, Paula Jones and a couple of others, but specifically Tara Reid for Joe Biden. You don't hear any support for her, and she has pretty valid claims, specific claims, and there's no if a Republican, any Republican, to the right of center does something wrong in this regard, they're going to be skewered by the media, whereas the media will cover up anything done by left-wing people in regards to sexual abuse. And also the Ellison, the Attorney General of the state of Minnesota, again,
right,
viable charges of sexual misconduct, yet nothing happens to these guys.
Right. So Juan, you got that video ready to go? We're going to show that video, and then we're going to come back.
Yes. Of course it helps that there are women on that committee, but you know what? I expect the men in this country and the men in this committee, and many of them, believe me, because we all signed on to this letter to demand an FBI investigation, but really, guess who's perpetuating all of these kinds of actions? It's the men in this country, and I just want to say to the men in this country, just shut up and step up. Do the right thing for a change. Okay, you can see I'm a little upset by this, the unfairness of it, but you have a second question?
Yeah, and hopefully, give me a thumbs up, Juan. Hope you guys can still hear me. I had to mute the mic for a second. We're on live, and I got 3 dogs that all of a sudden decided the Civil War is still going. I got Pickett, Longstreet, and Sherman, and they're fighting the war again. So, Carl, that's the problem with that is the problem with staying out of the middle. I mean, staying out of the corner, right? When you're fighting hard all the time, you go on a limb like that, right? So the Democrats were on a limb back then. Now they're sort of stuck, right? And so when I'm talking about this, that's what I always say, right? Stay out of the corner. They box themselves in. So what do you think? Where are we now?
Right. And it's even worse for them. When you look at Kavanaugh, that was an 11th hour movement, and he was trying to get something, Supreme Court justice. Here, it's just business as usual. This guy's a mentor, and some of these women have very meticulous notes. This is so different. We actually, in this case, there might actually be evidence, which we're not used to having evidence when we're going after people in DC. But in this case, there's going to be evidence against him. So, it's much different. These women have nothing to gain. He's not about to, he's not running for election next week. This is just coming out. And these meticulous notes and the details and the photos and, the age difference and the consistency. It's, I kind of completely agree with Lee on this. If they're going to go after him hard, he's going to have a tough time. And of course, now the New York mayor's, well out of his corner and seems to know a lot more than we do. And just waiting for the morning to wake up and see what he has to say. So, yeah.
So Lee brings up Tara Reid. It's a great point. So in Lee, we'll talk about Tara Reid in a second, and we'll talk about Joe Biden. But Carl brings up a great point politically, and this is a political show. So there's the law, there's the ethics, right? There's the political reality. It's a no-brainer for the Democrats to come out against him. The guy that replaced him is going to be a progressive liberal from New York. Is going to be the next governor of New York. Okay, the next mayor of New York City is going to be a liberal progressive. So actually, politically, they're politically smart for AOC, Hillary Clinton, and shit. Even the speaker, I don't think she's weighed in yet, but to come out against him. But you mentioned Joe Biden, Lee. It's interesting. I don't know if you remember, but Joe Biden's accuser's mother. We have anecdotal evidence. It's circumstantial, but I remember you've seen the Larry King episode from it's almost 30 years ago, 30 years ago, where Biden's accuser's mother calls into Larry King talking about, hey, my daughter works for a certain person on the Hill. And that at least corroborates the fact that Biden's accuser talked about it. So Lee, last thoughts, and we're going to go to a different topic, and on with that next video, but last thoughts on Cuomo, on this Me Too movement, and where we go from here.
Cuomo's done. He's done. Whether he stays to finish his term or not, that's to be determined. But he is politically done. There's no way he could win re-election. I don't even think he would get the nomination. He'd be primaried and booted out. Whether or not, I actually have a belief that if Cuomo's done, there's a potential for a Republican governor in New York. I know that seems far-fetched, but I think it's a possibility. People are seeing how insane Democratic, quote, progressive policies are. They're just not anywhere close to what a Democrat used to be. And they're just, way far socialistic policies that are, damaging to everybody involved.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great way to end that segment. So let's go to the next video. Juan's ready with it. We'll come out of the video. We'll go to Carl. Then we're going to go to Lee on the next video, or my dogs, whichever's making more noise. So Juan, go ahead and roll that next video.
Now is my good friend from Ohio, and I'd like to yield 2 minutes to the gentleman, Mr. Jordan.
The gentleman from Ohio, Mr. Jordan, is recognized for 2 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I thank the gentleman for yielding. It's bad enough that this bill is going to tell states how to run elections. Bad enough this bill is going to require taxpayers to finance the elections of politicians who created the swamp so they can get back to the swamp. But what is most egregious about this legislation is the attack on free speech. As the whip mentioned, the ACLU has said this vote no on this bill because it unconstitutionally burdens free speech and association rights. And let me tell you how it does it. Uses our old friend the IRS. Remember, just a few years ago, where the IRS systematically targeted people for their political beliefs. They went after conservatives. Now think about your First Amendment liberties. Your right to practice your faith the way you want to, the right to assemble, the right to petition your government, freedom of the press. But what is the most fundamental liberty we have under the First Amendment? Your right to speak, and particularly to speak in a political fashion, a political nature. That's what the IRS went after, and this bill does this. It gets rid of the Schedule B protections that are currently in law. It says the reason the protection of Schedule B information is important has nothing to do with vast conspiracies on the right or the left related to so-called dark money. Rather, it dates back to the Supreme Court's 1958 decision, NAACP versus Alabama. The Supreme Court formally recognized First Amendment protection of the freedom of association that prevented the NAACP from being compelled to turn over information about its members. This bill, what it will do today, is when this information has been leaked, as it has already, everyday Americans will continue to receive death threats, mail containing white powder, all because someone disagrees with what they believe. This bill should be defeated for one simple reason. It attacks our First Amendment liberties, our most sacred rights. This bill goes after it, and that's why we should vote it down, and that's why I urge a no vote. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
You know, thanks, Juan. You know, there's a guy we should be thinking about for 2024. I mean, right there, when you guys think about who just could really inspire, energize a lot of independents, different-minded folks. But anyway, yeah, I love how we mentioned the IRS. So you guys remember Lee? I'll go. I guess we said with Carl first this time. So Lois Lerner, right? I am still waiting for the day that Lois Lerner shows up in handcuffs, right? The IRS scandal, if you recall, Lee and Carl, during the Obama administration, they targeted the Tea Party. That just doesn't seem to happen. But so what do you think about I think it's called the We the People Act, Carl. So what do you think about that?
You know, there's so many things. I mean, this has been a week of bills coming out, potential legislation that could just potentially be disastrous for the country. Not just this one as well. We've got HR 1 out there too. You know, I just reflect on something you said last week. And, you know, this bill is a lot about elections, and, you know, we're not going to be, I mean, you know, it makes it okay now not to have the ID for, you know, for voting. Just like you said, was it last week or a couple of weeks ago, elections should be hard. You know, every year on April 15th, 14th, everybody in America knows what's coming and they know it's hard. But yet every year, Americans get that done. I can't figure it out. So every 4 years, we know it's coming and we can't get that done because it should be hard, just like doing your taxes if you haven't got what I'm talking about here once a year in April. That's hard and we get it done. I think you said it last week, but this is all about making sure elections go in a certain direction, and then going back to First Amendment rights. It's about starting to eat away at those rights. And you know, the media outlets and the targets of all those liberties that are going to be taken away, it's not going to be across the board peanut butter spread. It's conservatives, people that lean in a different direction than the party in power right now. So it's all bad.
So great point. So Carl, there's probably another bill you're thinking about so this is HR 1. This is for the People Act. And Lee, Democrats are geniuses, right? This one's called, and Carl, look it up, the one about the sports equality, what the exact name of that is. But this one was called, this is HR 1 we're talking about, Lee. This is the For the People Act. Democrats are for the people. I mean, I'm in. Democrats are for choice. I mean, I like my wife. I like cherry pie, Lee. She's constantly buying Apple. I mean, I have choice, right? Freedom of choice, right? The Democrats are brilliant. They're brilliant marketers, right? I mean, Lee, aren't you for the people?
Well, I'm absolutely for the people, but not in the sense that the Democrats are. I mean, they're using Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution to say that they have the authority to do this. That basically says Congress should have the power to lay and collect taxes, pay the debts, and provide for the common defense and the general welfare, and they're using that general welfare. Well, the 10th Amendment to the Constitution, it says power is not delegated to the United States by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, are reserved to the states respectively, or to the people, which is us. So I don't believe that this law that they're proposing is constitutionally viable. Now, I'm very disappointed in the Supreme Court. I think it's a compromised Supreme Court. But this case, if it does pass Congress and the Senate, which I'm hoping that, you know, that at least one Democrat senator will be voting against it to prevent it from passing, but that it's going to go to the Supreme Court. Now, we've all seen the Supreme Court abdicate their responsibilities with regards to the election of 2020. So I don't have a high degree of confidence that they're going to do the jobs and follow the Constitution. But if they do, then I see no way that this bill becomes law. Now, back to Jim Jordan. I want Jim Jordan to be the Speaker of the House in 2022. I don't have a lot of faith in good old Kevin McCarthy. I don't think he has a lot of backbone. Jim Jordan has backbone. And I'd like to see him be the Speaker of the House and the leader of the Republicans in Congress.
Yeah, so great points. We're going to go to that third video one in a second here. But great points, Lee. Great points, Carl, about this. I mean, we're going to, maybe in another episode, we got to discuss the constitutionality. But Carl brought up a great point. They're just knocking out bills left and right. You know, we got this bill now. We got, I mean, again, not to get off the track, but we got boys competing against girls now. I mean, we have got a mountain of bills and executive orders, Lee and Carl, that are they're going to just crush the Republic. But I will say, before we go to the next video, it looks like, I don't know if you guys read today, but it looks like Joe Manchin. I'm not a fan, but I just don't like, he just needs to figure out which side of the tracks he's on, which side of the fence that he sits or stands. But it looks like he's not going to allow, you know, they're going to maintain a regular order in the Senate. So a lot of the $15 minimum wage, that didn't pass, at least because of Senate parliamentarian. It looks like these bills aren't going to pass unless they go under regular order. And I can't imagine they pick off 10 Republicans. I mean, they got 7 on impeachment, so stranger things have happened. But as long as Joe Manchin sticks with our side on the regular order, Lee and Carl, it looks like we might have a chance to not get some of this nuttiness through without a little bit of a negotiation. I mean, we'll see. Maybe the former Senate Majority Leader from Kentucky, Cocaine Mitch, maybe he still's got some fight. We'll see. But Juan, give me a thumbs up for that last video, and then we're going to come back and talk a little bit about Kayleigh McEnany, her new gig at Fox, and then maybe a little Dr. Seuss. So Juan, roll that third and last video.
But this isn't about the people either. It's about an insatiable thirst for power and the quest to keep it. This trip is nothing more than a campaign sham. The goal is to dupe Texans into voting for Kamala Harris in 2024. See, my prediction still stands here. It will not be long before she takes over, especially when this is what we get today. And a warning here, as usual, it's painful to watch.
Lizzie Pinelli, Pinell, and what am I doing here? I'm going to lose track here. And Mayor Turner. My family spent a lot of time here in Houston, by the way, hey, John Eddie, how are you, buddy? I didn't see you there. I could be known for as president. I would be the president who, during his era, ended cancer as we know it.
As I said, it is painful to watch. That's the man they call the leader of the free world. But again, he's in Texas because for Democrats, Texas is the holy grail.
I mean, I was actually joking. We were going to talk about Dr. Seuss later in the show, but Juan's going to give us the time. We're getting close to wrap. But I swear, Lee, 5 minutes. So we're going to go at about 5 more minutes. But Lee, I swear, let's just tie this in with Joe Biden and Dr. Seuss. And I'm not being disrespectful to the president, but every time I think he talks, now it's occurred to me, it is like a Dr. Seuss book because I don't know what the hell he's saying half the time.
Yeah, and I don't think he knows what he's saying either. It's pretty sad to watch. And what Stinchfield said about him, it's pretty disgraceful that he is, quote, the leader of the free world. I think his dementia is getting worse. I think Kamala Harris will take over sooner rather than later because they just can't. How can you continue to prop that up? They keep him hidden, and when they bring him out, it's embarrassing. Or I think it's embarrassing anyway. And I know you're going to Dr. Seuss later, and it's just a sad state of affairs when people are trying to cancel Dr. Seuss. That just doesn't make any sense to me in any way, shape, or form.
So go to Carl here for a second. Carl, just a couple of things I wanted to talk about. So looks like the former press secretary is on Fox. That looks pretty typical for a female press secretary. She's over on Fox. And so your pick, Dr. Seuss or Kayleigh, what do you want to talk about?
But, let's go for Dr. Seuss only for a second. I could be in trouble because if you Google me on YouTube, I gave a commencement address at a high school a few years ago, and I quoted Dr. Seuss. So I already have a problem there. So that could be an issue. But I went on Amazon today, and, we're already talking about taking away the Dr. Seuss books. But literally an hour ago, I verified Mein Kampf is still on Amazon. No issue there. So when you look at the cancel culture, it's kind of lighthearted a little bit, but it's just, could this be the tipping point? I always keep wondering, where is the tipping point in terms of the cancel culture and bad for liberals? Could we be getting there? Hard to say because a lot of things that's going on are a little bit nutty, but But yeah, just so you know, Mein Kampf still on Amazon. You can get it today.
Great point. So you talk about cancel culture, and I wanted to loop that in with Kayleigh McEnany. So it's like Republicans have nowhere to go. I mean, all we do is keep canceling us. Like, we only have Fox News. That's the only place we can get hired at the end. And even Fox News, I haven't watched Fox News since election night, but the ratings are just getting crushed. So we literally have nowhere else to go, Lee. I mean, I guess we could write another Dr. Seuss book, but you're going to get canceled anyway. So you're over on Fox News. You're getting canceled left and right. I bring all this to close the loop because you go back to Cuomo. I mean, Lee, how ridiculous is it that CNN hasn't spent 3 seconds on Governor Cuomo? I mean, I don't know. I'll have to circle back with you, but I think he has someone that related to him working for the network. I'll have to circle back with you on that one. But what are your thoughts about that?
Well, I don't think CNN's going to cover Cuomo in any way, shape, or form. And when you're talking about McEnany, she's going to Fox News, and that's great. And I share your not watching Fox News. I think Newsmax and OAN. Newsmax, Greg Kelly, 7 o'clock it's the best show as far as political opinion television, I believe. And I don't watch Fox News anymore. And CNN's not going to do anything with Andrew Cuomo. They're just not going to. And you don't see any network really covering it very well. But like I said, he's going to be done soon, and he'll be put to pasture, and his political career will be done, finished.
So we got to get out of here. Again, great show, Lee and Carl. So I'm going to throw a quick question here. You can think about it for just a few seconds and answer it. We're going to write this down. Carl, how soon till Biden puts U.S. forces on the ground in the Middle East? I mean, all that work that Jared Kushner did, I think, is already being flushed down the toilet. How soon, and I say this seriously, we're kind of joking about it. We're all three military guys, and this would be a bad state of affairs to the U.S., but how soon till we have U.S. forces on the ground, or and that you can include plussing up Iraq or Afghanistan?
Yeah, easy question. Just had a conversation with someone. I'll go with our birthday. We will see troop increases in Afghanistan. I think we're going to throw out the Taliban agreement that's supposed to go into effect 1 May, and I think we'll see some more folks there in Syria. But let's go with our birthday, 14 May, and I absolutely mean that. No kidding aside, I think we're going to see a build up.
Yeah, so that would be unfortunately real quick. What are your thoughts? When do you think that Biden is going to put troops on the ground or plus up Iraq and Afghanistan?
So we're sitting here first week of March. I'm guessing, I'll go by tax day. How about tax day? You see part of this, these $1.9 trillion. If you look at how much money Raytheon got in that bill, it's astronomical figures that Raytheon got. So I'm guessing Raytheon spent a lot of money for Joe Biden during the election, because this is the billions of dollars of contracts that Raytheon got for foreign contracts and U.S. contracts. So April 15th sounds like a fair enough day to start spending more money.
We got to go, guys. But I think Carl wins for the analogy of the year so far. That was a great point. We should be able to vote every 2 years in November, every 4 years. On the first Tuesday after the first Monday. This isn't hard. If America, I was watching King of Queens the other night when Doug goes and buys the big TV for the Super Bowl, and then they ask the guy what the return policy is. If everyone in America can have all their shit in one sock, hell, Carl, not tax day, by the first Sunday in February, you got the pizza, the chips, your brand new flat screen lined up by the first Sunday in February, I think we can get voter ID going for but that was brilliant though.
Hey, and just to add, you talk about troops. I can't remember. It was one of my favorite movies. Where the president is single. It's from the 90s, and he gets the girlfriend in the White House. What's
American
the movie?
President.
Remember when he goes and bombs, and then his press guy was like, "Because you look presidential." And all kidding aside, those are the kind of things that could make someone who's having some issues look presidential. You do something with the military. You put folks on the ground, troops on the ground. And there's nothing more presidential than bombing someone in the Middle East.
And on that note, Lee, I think we're going to call it a night. So good job, Carl. Come from the People's Republic of Virginia. Lee, great job up there in the Northeast. Stay warm. And Juan, great job again to Juan and the entire Right America team at CPAC 2021. Juan, great job to you for pulling all that together. This is the Council of Colonels bringing you maybe almost 100 years of military expertise. But all we got tonight is Dr. Seuss, babe. So see you guys next week.
I'm Danny Wash Jr., producer of The Loaded Mic. I just wanted to let you know that you can find us at Simul TV, Right America Media, YouTube, and Rumble. You can also find the podcast at Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. Or you can go to loadedmic.com. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and leave a review.
Hello and welcome to the Point of View show where we are going to look at political issues from a biblical point of view. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're on YouTube. Comment, let us know what you think about these issues. We want to take a look at all of these things, look at them from biblical perspectives. And on our Tuesday night show, we have just a 30-minute segment where we go over specifically like biblical related things that are, we're not just commenting on any random news. We're commenting on news that specifically has to do with Christians in the Bible. And today we want to talk about a statement that was made last week by Bill Hemmer on the beloved Fox News, less beloved than it used to be. But and I'm reading from a story on the Daily Wire. The title of the story is "Can't Make It Up. Bill Hemmer Predicts Cancel Culture Coming for Bible Characters Next." Fox News anchor Bill Hemmer warned the increasingly aggressive cancel culture that would go after figures such as former President Abraham Lincoln will soon aim its fire at characters in the Bible. Hemmer made his Hemmer made his comments Friday during a segment on Fox News, the show America's Newsroom, about the new Chicago Monuments Project, which will catalog the city's monuments and appoint an advisory committee to determine which pieces warrant attention or action. Among the historical figures whose monument is being reviewed is Abraham Lincoln, whose tomb is in Springfield, Illinois. So they're actually going to review the Lincoln Monument and decide whether or not it should be taken down. Abraham Lincoln, who was the president, who actually fought, led the war. He emancipated the slaves, right? I mean, but yet he's under review, and we'll see if he matches up to the left's cancel standards. I think that the problem with this is that it doesn't matter what this review board decides. Every monument is going to be a problem, because any monument of any person, even a black person, they're just going to go after monuments because they're making a statement by destroying monuments. I don't think they really care who those monuments are and what they represent. What do you think, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, the fact of the matter is the absurd reasoning I've heard behind a lot of people that want to take down Abraham Lincoln stuff is, well, he didn't properly demonstrate that he believed Black Lives Mattered. Which is bizarre, being that he, waged a war against people to demonstrate that Black lives were indeed human lives and worthy of equal value. But the thing is, there is a hatred for our past in this country, because it's seen as bigotry and rooted in racism thanks to the 1619 Project and things like that. I think it's the 1619 Project, right? And especially, I think most of our historical stuff, the cancel culture is going to come after, but especially if you're a white guy, you just don't have a prayer. Your stuff is... You're a racist by virtue of your skin color, according to Robin DiAngelo and Ibram Kendi and these kind of guys. So it's if this continues, if the people in power continue to be in power, then yeah, this is going to happen.
Yeah. So Hemmer and Dana Perino were actually discussing this on their show with Carly Shimkus. These are all three Fox News contributors. And Shimkus said, you have to wonder, are we in a transition period in our country right now where our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren might not think of these people the way we do? They might not be taught in the same way. We know them now. I say more statues, not less, not fewer. More opinions, more ideas, not less. And Bill Hemmer responded with this comment, which is why the story was written and what our show is about today. He said, I tell you, if they start canceling these American presidents, they're going to come after Bible characters next. Mark my words. Well, we are marking your words, Bill Hemmer, and we're doing a whole show on him, so we're doing exactly what you asked us to do. I think he's got a point, and we are going to give a list of Bible characters that should be canceled based on the left's standards, which actually isn't a huge surprise because they would want to cancel the Bible anyway.
Well, it's funny that you said that the left has standards. That is a good joke right there.
Well, double standards are still standards.
Well, by technicality.
By technicality, not real standards. Okay, so let me give you my first one. I've got a whole list, and if you hit on any of mine, Justin, if you bring up any of them, let me start with the first one that just popped into my head. I'd say we need to cancel the Good Samaritan. The Good Samaritan. Because, and follow me on this one, he stuck his nose where it didn't belong. This guy was beat up by a band of thieves, and who's to call them thieves? I mean,
mostly peaceful thieves.
They were probably poor, and it was probably the result of capitalism. And so, hey, look, they needed something, and they found a wealthy, probably less brown Middle Eastern man. He's probably less brown than they were. And they said, we're going to take what he has because we're hungry. They're feeding their family. And this Good Samaritan comes along, and after the priest and the Levite and everyone else has decided, no, we're not getting involved. This is not for us. The Good Samaritan goes and breaks all the rules. Good Samaritan. And sticks his nose where he doesn't belong. The other thing, too, he almost acts as if this guy's life mattered. Like the sanctity of human life, which is, I mean, that's a no-no. I mean, that the fact that he would, condemn these guys for stealing his things, And then, also, he kind of even called for an end of division over racial issues, because there's this big, thing about Samaritans and Jews where they were there was this racial prejudice between them, and he sort of reached out an olive branch to end racial division. And I think for all of those reasons, the left would definitely cancel the Good Samaritan.
Yeah, well, I mean, the fact of the matter is what that Jew wasn't aware of was the fact that being a Jew made him a racist by nature. He unfortunately wasn't as enlightened as we are today to know that just being not the race that's calling for whatever makes you a racist. See, racism isn't a inward prejudice towards a member of the opposite color or whatever. Racism is being not that group. So the Good Samaritan, boy, that was a big mistake. I mean, it clearly blatant racism. Has to be.
Yeah. Ridiculous. So lesson from the Good Samaritan, really. Don't be a Good Samaritan. Don't stick your nose into other people's issues.
Yeah.
Don't act like people's lives matter if they're not poor and oppressed. And don't you dare act like race isn't an issue and like you should treat everyone equally. Don't you dare.
By the way, piggybacking off the back of that, you know who else has to be canceled then? Because the Good Samaritan is a parable.
Well, the person who told the parable, obviously, I'm not sure who that was. Whoever told the parable needs to be canceled as well. He made up a story.
If I know anything about theology, it's that Jesus would never have stood for something like this. This kind of bigotry is just Jesus is love, and this is just not who Jesus is.
The Good Samaritan certainly wasn't Christ-like.
Clearly not. And surely we would have to say that this sounds like the Pharisees that Jesus condemned, that religious group.
And you know what? There's another person who wasn't
really
Christ-like at all. And I can't remember his name, but he actually went into the temple and he like threw tables over and made whips out of the tables and started whipping people in the temple. He was super intolerant. He actually incited violence and participated in it in the temple. And I can't remember his name, but he was not like Christ at all. Like Jesus would not approve of that.
And you know, that same person affirmed God's design for marriage, which, ooh, yikes, that is, I mean, don't you know, you're just behind the times. You're on the wrong side of history right there.
Yeah, and whoever it was is the same person who said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes unto the Father but by me.
What a bigot.
Like that's so bigoted. I mean, like you can't go to heaven unless you're a Christian now. Like you can't go to heaven now unless you come on.
Yeah, so you're going to tell me there's a Muslim ban.
Also, I feel like I'm a little offended by the resurrection of Jesus Christ, because it kind of proves that all the other religions are wrong and that Christianity is right. And so I think we should cancel the resurrection as well. It's offensive to other religions.
Or we could do the atheist route and just ignore the evidence. That works too. And just say, nah,
we could just say the resurrection never really happened. This is, by the way, if you're just joining us, this is applying the standards of cancellation to Bible characters. So far, we have canceled the Good Samaritan and by extension, Jesus, because he told the story. What about Job? I mean, Job was sort of disrespectful to women. His wife told him to curse God, and he said no. He didn't listen to his wife. It's almost like he's patriarchal. Like he doesn't have to listen to his wife, you know?
Yeah, definition of toxic masculinity right there. I mean... Yeah.
And then his friends came, and his friends tried to just point out his privilege. Like, he was so rich, and they were just trying to, like, check your privilege, Job. And he argued with them. Like, instead of saying, I'm so sorry for being privileged.
Yeah, I have no idea why he wouldn't just accept that it was his privilege that caused his kids to die. I mean...
Yeah, it was his privilege. Exactly right. So Job needs to be canceled. And for that matter, honestly, all of the patriarchs... the patriarchs? I mean, come on.
I mean,
patriarchal.
just the word right there.
Yeah, masculine, the chauvinist, basically. White privilege. This is like all throughout the Bible. We just need to cancel all of the patriarchs, but we can keep the rest of the Bible. Just the parts that aren't compromised by these cancel things.
Yeah. You know who else comes to mind, and I feel bad now for having a sort of serious one that absolutely is going to be on the chopping block, but that would be Moses. And I don't think it takes too much reflection to figure out why, because we're talking about the guy who wrote the Old Testament law. And if you remember correctly, there's a lot of stuff in the Old Testament law that our culture really doesn't like. One of those being that a man should not lie with a man as he does with a woman. And there are punishments for that. God, using Moses, made a law specifically against homosexuality, and there are Democrats right now that are getting canceled because when they were in office 30 years ago, they were against homosexuality. And what's funny is they're not going to apply it evenly. It's just whatever Democrat they feel like going after that day, because Barack Obama entered office not pro-homosexuality. He was in support of traditional marriage, at least in word, when he entered office. So what are we going to do about that? But I think it's Feinstein, I think she's a senator. They've been coming after her and taking her name off stuff because she was against homosexuality at one point in her career.
Wow.
So I can't imagine what is going to happen to Moses.
Well, we gotta cancel Paul too then, because Paul made it pretty clear. Like the words he used, arsenokoites, like no question about it, he was absolutely condemning homosexuality when he said that the homosexual does not have his part in heaven. Now, give me. You might remember the quotation of that verse. I'm just paraphrasing.
Right. It says there's actually a list of sins, but in that list it says that the arsenokoites and the malakoi, which would be the sort of scholarly sources on it would say that is the active and the passive partner in a male homosexual relationship shall not inherit the kingdom of God.
Yeah.
And then Paul actually, what's interesting is Paul then goes on to say, and such were some of you, but you are washed, you are justified, you are sanctified, something like that, in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ and the Spirit of our God. So Paul actually gives us 2,000-year-old evidence that people stopped being homosexual. So there goes that myth.
Oh my goodness. Oh wait, so hang on.
Yeah,
we have to cancel Paul then.
Paul definitely is on the chopping block.
Paul made a very clear statement then that homosexuality was a sin for which people go to hell. Mm-hmm. And he advocated for rehabilitating the homosexual and being washed in the blood of Christ and no longer being homosexual.
Yeah, and I think it had something to do with like electrical shocking them or something. It was conversion therapy at its finest, really.
No, yeah, cancel Paul. He also, by the way, preached and asked people to turn from their religions to become Christians. So that's another offensive thing.
That's not very inclusive.
I mean, granted, he did advocate for releasing one slave, Onesimus. But, I mean, compared to all the other things, we still have to cancel him.
Yeah, the problem is, though, he also said that you shouldn't be rioting and uprising against the government. So that's kind of an issue. And he also gave instruction to people who were slaves and said that it's not necessarily your first and top priority isn't actually to get free. It's to honor God. And then if God provides you with a chance to be free, then you should take that. So, I mean, clearly slavery is the worst evil that's ever existed. And I think honoring God, sure, fine, that's all well and good. But clearly he should have been advocating for them to overthrow their masters. Maybe even kill them because, I mean, hey, they're slave owners. So, I mean, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Let me look at how much time we have left before I go into that.
Oh, yeah, I'm just having fun. I have no idea.
Okay, let's talk about Peter, because Peter made this famous statement that everyone likes to quote, but I think it's actually cancel-worthy. He said, we ought to obey God rather than men. And what he was talking about was like his government that was telling him, don't go out and like annoy people by preaching the name of Jesus. And he said, no, I'm not going to obey what the government told him to do in order. The government was watching out for the best and for the peace, so that people would not have to go out in the streets and be offended by this message of Jesus. And Peter said he wasn't going to obey the government just to keep people from being offended. And I think that's a really good reason to cancel Peter.
Yeah, he probably would have been an anti-masker too. But no, I mean, the fact of the matter is, if you think about it, it's just scary how parallel this is. Have you heard of the Equality Act, which we may have actually covered on yesterday's show? I don't remember exactly, but
because just so everyone's watching, we record this right before we do the show on Mondays, so
yeah,
we might be talking about the Equality Act then, which would be back then for you guys.
Right. But the people pushing the Equality Act, people like Joe Biden and specifically Kamala Harris, she has said that religion is basically something for you in your home, that you don't have the right to be like public with your religion and your religious beliefs. So if you want to be privately very open about your faith in your home, well, good on you, but outside that, you don't have that right. Well, Peter would have to be canceled under that standard, clearly, because God said, hey, be public about it.
Yeah, right. Okay, here's something that I thought was just, I was as I was thinking through this, I was thinking about people who we need to cancel. And there's this big statue of David that's like this famous guy, some Michael somebody or else, carved.
Yep.
And first of all, it's offensive because he's white. Now, but it gets extra points because he doesn't wear clothes. So that's like a positive in liberal cancel culture.
Body affirming.
Body affirming, right? Yes. And he's... Anyway. Anyway, so but David actually committed violence. Like when he refused to follow Saul, and Saul like wanted to kill him, and he refused to like surrender to the government, and he actually ran. And then yeah, sure, he told his men not to hurt the Lord's anointed, and he wouldn't actually hurt Saul. But he wouldn't submit to Saul, which is like just as bad. It's like he didn't maybe commit violence, but he kind of incited violence because later Saul was killed. And I feel like David kind of incited that by saying that he was the anointed. Like he should be president, or he should be the king.
Right, but to be fair, it could have just been that he was a Republican. If Saul was a Republican, then I'm pretty sure that's okay. Right. Because if I remember how the rules go, violence against Republican leaders, good thing. Violence against Democrat anything, that's when you get canceled. So we'd really have to check. I don't remember if there was a D or an R next to Solomon's name in the Bible. We're just going to have to look that up and cancel accordingly.
Yeah, that's true. David. I think I read that David was red. Like he was full-on Republican, so we need to cancel anyone who's Republican.
Right. So if Solomon was a Democrat then, and he was inciting violence against a Democrat, then yeah, we got a problem.
And then
if it was two Republicans, then it's kind of a gray area because it's just depends on if it's beneficial to the Democrats.
Yeah.
Like, can they point at David and be like, see what the Republicans do? In that case, we might actually just sort of turn a blind eye to what he's doing, but it's gray.
But then you have Jonathan, Saul's son, who actually didn't do anything that David did, but he also didn't condemn David, right? He actually sort of like verbally supported David. And so there's another issue, right? When somebody steps outside of the lines that the government paints for them as far as what they should or shouldn't do, and that government is run by leftists, then we have to cancel that person, and anyone who doesn't cancel that person also needs to be canceled. Right?
My brain is starting to hurt now.
So it's inciting violence by not condemning. I mean, just okay. So today, right? We have Donald Trump, who said that he won the election, and then people committed violence, and so he should be canceled, President Trump. But also, everyone who doesn't come out and cancel President Trump should also be canceled because they're helping him incite violence by not canceling him. Does that make sense?
No.
Not at all. Not at all.
Speaking of biblical characters that have to be canceled, boy, talk about toxic patriarchy. Abraham. Not just that he's the first patriarch. That's obviously a big problem right there. But also, if you remember, Peter, I believe it's Peter, says that Sarah called him Lord.
Oh,
my goodness. This is a problem. Can you imagine the amount of toxic masculinity it takes for you to actually be okay with your wife calling you Lord? I mean, he probably, I'm just going out on a limb here, she probably did the cooking too.
You know what? I know this isn't in the Bible, but I feel very sure that Abraham mansplained to Sarah. I think he mansplained.
Well, here's the thing. We aren't sure on Abraham, but as a biblical scholar, I can assure you the Lord did. Because she laughed at him and said, no, I can't have a kid.
That's right.
And the Lord then mansplains to her that you're going to have a kid. Now, sure, he was right, but that's irrelevant. This was toxic masculinity.
Doesn't matter. It was the way that he presented himself.
You know, what's
to a woman.
interesting, this just comes to mind. What we're seeing in this is that if we take the leftist approach here, you really would end up canceling God.
Yeah.
Like, God is the one that's the main target here.
It's like the more that you act like God, the more you should be canceled. Which is interesting, because Christianity is all about being like Christ. So you kind of see where it's going. And Abraham also had servants. So that's not cool. I'm sure they didn't get paid as much as Abraham got paid, which is also not cool. They should be paid more than Abraham, actually. So there's that.
Not to mention his nephew Lot opposed a homosexual encounter. There was going to be a large homosexual encounter in the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, and Saul said, "Don't do so wickedly." Ooh, that is canceled right there.
Yeah, you know what? You know who should be canceled? Those angels. Those angels should be canceled because they destroyed an entire city in bigotry. They're bigots. They were bigoted angels.
Well, technically the angels didn't destroy the city. This again was the Lord, because you have Yahweh on earth raining fire and brimstone from Yahweh in heaven. So once again, the Lord's canceled.
Right. Well,
by the standards.
A short pause. There's a statement there in Genesis where it says, "I can do nothing." The angel says, "I can do nothing." Now they did it with the power of God, so it was all God doing it. But that's why I said
right. But the account is that when Abraham is done talking with the Lord, it says that Yahweh, the Lord on earth, rains fire and brimstone from Yahweh in heaven.
That's true. That's a good point. But anyway, you know,
and that's the most
so
substantive discussion you're going to get.
Either way, God is bigoted. God has no right to do this. Let's talk about one more, or actually two. And then I want to draw this all to like a really helpful conclusion. Ezekiel and Isaiah. Both Ezekiel and Isaiah both compare their enemies, the king of Tyre and the king of Babylon. They compare them to Lucifer, to Satan. I mean, if you thought that Gina Carano was bad, because she compared herself to a Jew who was being persecuted by the Nazis, then, my goodness, Ezekiel and Isaiah actually compared their enemies to Satan. They need to be canceled. That's offensive language.
Well, again, we have to understand, if he's talking about Republicans, that's okay, though. So we still have to check the D's and the R's, because if it's a Republican that he's calling Satan, that was the right thing to do. In fact, you might want to hyphenate it like Satan Hitler, or Satan Hitler Trump, something like that. If the enemies were Republican, this was a positive thing. But granted, we didn't check the D's and the R's before this show. So if it was a Democrat, absolutely that was the worst thing. You can't do that, and really, frankly, should be cast out of any sort of polite society.
Yeah, absolutely. So ultimately what we're doing here is we're bringing this all to this conclusion about cancel culture. And what we've seen just in these examples, and there's many more, but just in these examples, what we've seen is that ultimately what this cancel culture leads to is canceling like God himself. And the more godly and the more Christ-like you are, the more you're targeted for cancellation. And that's really interesting, because some of these things might actually offend some of our viewers. I mean, some of these things, like, I really have a problem with God like destroying a whole city because they were evil, or and it seems like at least part of that evil was homosexuality. Like, this really bothers me. And that brings us to the question of, how do we know that anything is right or wrong if God doesn't get to decide what is right and what is wrong? And how do we know that there should be any punishments for right or wrong if God doesn't get to decide what's the just punishment for wrong?
Yeah, this is the fatal flaw in a godless society, is that they, at least the one that we're in right now, does very much so believe in objective morality, because you can't get to where we are without objective morality. But the problem is they believe in an objective morality, but they get to make up what the objective morality is, which, by the way, means it's not objective. But what they're going to argue is that racism, absolutely evil, unquestionably evil. But you're not letting God define what racism is. Very clear in Scripture that there's neither Jew nor Greek, bond nor free, male nor female in Christ. That these distinctions that are sort of external, sort of fleshly distinctions, that's not a Christian thing. We don't divide people based on Jew or Greek, which would be the racial issue. So this culture wants to have objective morality, but it doesn't want to accept the source that allows you to have it. Because the fact of the matter is, if there's no God, then there is no objective morality. And people say, well, no, it's what's good for society, what's good for the tribe, or what's good for the race. Problem is, all you have to do is have one person that say, I don't care what's good for society. I'm going to do what I want. And you cannot say that person is objectively evil or wrong. I can, because I believe in God, who is the arbiter of morality. And by the way, this is why liberal Christianity doesn't work. Because like you just saw, if we're going to consistently apply the standards the left has, God himself is canceled. You can't have liberal Christianity. It doesn't work. These are diametrically opposed.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And you know, one of the easy tests is you ask somebody is anything always wrong in every circumstance? Okay, so here's an example. Is torturing babies for fun wrong all the time, always? Now, I think people are going to say, yeah, that's always wrong. You shouldn't torture babies for fun, ever. Like, ever. I can't ever think of it. Why is it always wrong? Right? If there's no God, and if God doesn't get to decide what is right and what is wrong, if he doesn't get to set morality, then why is it always wrong? Oh, because I can't imagine. Why can't you imagine it? Like, why is it so detestable to you? I mean, yes, I agree. It is detestable, but it's detestable for a reason. It's detestable because God said so. And God said that life has value. And so if God gets to set the standard for morality, then we don't cancel the Bible. We use the Bible to determine who we should cancel. Like Ravi Zacharias. It's a good person to cancel based on what we see in the Bible, right?
Yeah.
Things like that.
And the fact of the matter is, if people say, oh, no, see, it's not good for society or good for the species if you torture babies just for fun, you can press them on that and see if they'll be consistent. Because if that person is willing to support abortion, they don't care what's good for society or what's good for the human race. They don't.
Yeah.
Because they're advocating murdering the babies instead of just torturing them. So they're not going to be consistent with that principle. No one will ever be consistent with their moral principle if they are trying to hold a moral principle outside of God, because you can't do it.
Exactly right. And with that, we want to not quite close it off, because we want to remind you that we are headed down to Orlando, Florida, our little sunny vacation. It won't be much of a vacation, but hopefully it will be sunny and warmer than it is up here in the Northeast, for CPAC at the end of this week. So join us. Go to ramtv.live, www.ramtv.live. You can watch all of the coverage of CPAC, and I think our spot is going to be on Friday. We're going to have our show. We're going to have a special 2-hour show on Friday from 9 to 11, live streamed from CPAC. Now, this is all God willing. There's a few hiccups in our
Hey, I'm
registration,
K-Soak from K-Soak Uncensored. My show airs every Thursday night at 7 p.m. Eastern on RAM Channel 1. My platform is We the People, and I represent a stage for all 50 states. And the only thing that my guests have in common is that they are raging patriots and they love this country and they have a great message to share. Please come check us out and join the K-Soak Uncensored family.
I'm Danny Wash Jr., producer of The Loaded Mic. I just wanted to let you know that you can find us at Simul TV, Right America Media, YouTube, and Rumble. You can also find the podcast at Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Play. Or you can go to loadedmic.com. Remember to like, share, subscribe, and leave a review.
It is necessary to purge the establishment.
What she's suggesting that churches do, a focus on...
That's not necessarily a good thing to start with.
They're stating it wasn't around when we needed the greatest generation of the 30s or 40s. Or...
It happened before the election because there are too many Republicans that are afraid that their wrongdoing is going to...
It's unacceptable, and I'm not going to sit here, stay silent, and not call it out. I'm calling out the lies.
With rules for Thanksgiving. Who the hell is he to tell us what we're supposed to do?
Do they think that we are so stupid that we will not notice and find out